For step 2, you have some options. So you'll go into our ET 620 class, and you can either do one of the Programming 100 lessons after you finish the Welcome to Tynker. You can select one of these options to continue coding, so to move just beyond the basics and kind of understand a little bit more about what's coding and kind of get into a game like your students would get into. The other option you have is this hour of code block. So within the hour of code block, you have, most of these are about an hour, and you don't have to do the whole hour, but it's just getting you kind of acquainted to more coding, and you have a lot of different options within this hour of code block. One of the things that's nice is you can kind of filter. So block coding is what you were doing in the previous activity, where you're drag and dropping the codes. So you're not actually typing it out, you're just putting it together like a puzzle. Text coding is when you start typing codes. So a lot of times they talk about with coding, like the age level that you should be, at what age do you start text coding to versus block coding. And it's less about age. You do have to have reading skills, but it's less about the age of the students and more about the experience of coding. So I have seen 3rd and 4th graders text coding, where they're writing out the programming language because they started block coding in preschool and pre-K and kindergarten. I've also seen where high schoolers are block coding because they don't have the experience to be able to text code. Block coding is the more basic function. Text coding, you actually have to write it all out. So when you're thinking about, which would be best for my classroom, it's not necessarily, well, I teach high school, so we go straight into text coding, because there's a lot of errors that can be made in text coding, and that's where we usually introduce students in block coding. If you have a very strong culture of coding and programming and computational thinking and computer science in your school or in your school system, like K-12, then you might, investigate what the students have already done to move them into text coding. You might also find moments in which you can differentiate. You have students who might need to start at that block coding, and then others that are ready to go into text coding. They also have some other options like STEM, UN, NASA, and then just the gallery. You'll notice, I'm going to go back till even just like STEM, they have this like beginner, intermediate, advanced label as well. So you're able to determine like where you are, and we are all over the place. I can tell you that right now. So a lot of you might say I'm a beginner, but there are students in here that are advanced, that are teaching coding and teaching, have done a lot of computer science background stuff and come from like computer science engineer families. So just choose one of these games, either from this hour of code or from the Programming 100 for this next step.